Welcome to Meknès, the heart of SIAM 2026. For years, the goal in these fields was simple, yield and performance. But today, a new message dominates. Agriculture must now deliver performance and sustainability at the same time. Faced with critical water scarcity, Moroccan frontrunners are proving that ecological regeneration is no longer just a mandate. It is the ultimate competitive edge for global exports. From AI-driven precision irrigation to massive solar energy projects, we are diving into how the Delassus Group is pioneering a total ESG transformation. Is this the secret blueprint for the future of farming? Let's find out.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really powerful shift happening in global agriculture. It's a story about how sustainability is no longer just a nice idea, it's actually being turned into a core strategic weapon.
All right, so let's get right into it. Our story kicks off right here at this huge international agricultural show in Meknès, Morocco. Now, this isn't your average trade show. This place is basically the epicenter of a massive change in how we think about farming.
And there's this one message, one single idea that you just hear everywhere here. It's completely dominating the conversation. The old way of doing things is just over. There's a new mandate now.
So here's the crucial point. For decades, it always felt like a choice, right? You could have high yield and amazing performance, or you could be sustainable. Well, that idea is officially dead. The new reality, the new mandate, is that you've got to deliver both at the same time. No exceptions.
Which, of course, brings up a big question. If this is the new global standard we're all talking about, who is actually out there on the ground leading the charge? Who's showing everyone else how it's done?
Well, let's take a look at one company in particular, the Delassus Group. They're really emerging as a major frontrunner in this whole shift. And they aren't just adapting, they're building an entirely new business model from the ground up.
So how are they doing it? They're using the B Corp certification. Now, if you're not familiar, B Corp is a pretty big deal. It means a company is meeting incredibly high standards for everything from performance and accountability to how they treat their employees and their supply chain. And this isn't just some badge they put on their website for good PR. For Delassus, this rigorous framework is the actual roadmap they're using to re-engineer their entire business.
This slide does a great job of just laying it all out so clearly. On the left, you've got the old way of thinking. It's all about volume, you're reactive with water, and you're totally reliant on fossil fuels. But on the right, you see the new model. It's about sustainable performance, 100% precision with water, and making a shift to actively regenerating the environment. It's a total transformation. So let's break down what this actually looks like in the real world. We'll start with what is, arguably agriculture's most precious and increasingly scarce resource, water.
Morocco is right on the front lines of the global water scarcity crisis. So for a company like Delassus, this is basically ground zero. And their response has been pretty radical. Push for absolute precision. They're aiming for 100% coverage with advanced irrigation across every single one of their farms.
And this is where it gets really, really cool. They've created this high-tech, closed-loop system. So first, you've got satellites scanning everything. Topography, real-time weather, you name it. Then, AI grabs all that data and crunches it to figure out the exact amount of water and nutrients a specific plant in a specific field needs. And finally, the system delivers exactly that amount. No more, no less. Waste is pretty much eliminated.
Okay, let's move on to energy, because you'll see it builds on that same core idea of radical efficiency. They're not just trying to use less energy, they're actually trying to become an energy producer. I mean, the scale of what they're doing is already pretty impressive. They've deployed a massive 10 megawatts of solar capacity. And that's not even the end goal. That's just the tool they're using to aim for a 30% cut in their Scope 2 emissions, which is the indirect emissions from the energy they buy, all by 2027.
But as you can see here, their long-term vision goes way further. They've literally mapped out a 4-phase journey. It starts with just using the energy themselves, then moves to a key partnership. Then they scale up massively, and it all ends in this final phase, creating a brand new green business as a solar farmer.
And the scale of this next step is just huge. 16 gigawatt hours. That's what they expect their new solar tech plant to produce every year. That's enough clean energy to not only make their own operations green, but to actually become a major supplier, turning solar farming into a real, profitable business.
Which brings us to the third and final piece of their whole strategy. And this is all about a complete shift in mindset. moving away from just trying to do less harm and moving toward actively healing and restoring the ecosystem. And look, they're not just talking about it, they're doing it with concrete actions you can measure. They're replanting over 27,000 native trees, including restoring these really fragile Argan ecosystems. They're bringing the soil back to life with large-scale composting, and they're designing waste out of the system by switching to 100% fully recyclable packaging.
You know, this whole transformation isn't just about technology and ecology. It's also deeply human. True sustainability means you invest in your people. For Delassus, that's almost 7,000 employees. We're talking skills training, safety programs, and fair trade initiatives that directly help local communities with things like clean water and education.
So we've seen the what and the how, but the really critical question is why? Why go to all this trouble? Well, it's because this isn't just about doing good, it's about gaining a serious competitive advantage.
And this is exactly why that B Corp framework is so critical here. It acts as their operational spine. It's what keeps all these amazing projects, the water tech, the solar farms, the regeneration, from being just a bunch of separate, siloed initiatives. It ties them all together into one powerful, efficient, sustainable performance engine.
And really, this brings us to the ultimate takeaway from the whole show. For companies on the cutting edge like Delassus, things like ESG and regeneration aren't just annoying regulations they have to deal with. No way. They are the actual structural advantages that are securing their place in the future of global markets.
What's happening in Moroccan agriculture is basically a blueprint that could be applied way beyond just farming. So it leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought. If one of the oldest industries in the world can turn sustainability into its greatest asset, what industry is next?
Welcome to the debate. I am Fuad Amalal, an agricultural engineer and agronomist. And, well, imagine trying to grow thousands of tons of export-grade produce in a country where water is just rapidly vanishing. You don't just need a better tractor. You need to completely reinvent the farm.
Right, and looking at the materials from the SIAM 2026 exhibition in Meknès, that reinvention is happening in real time. We are seeing a massive structural shift in how large-scale farming operates.
Exactly. So the central question today is whether the ESG transformation of major export players, specifically the Delassus Group, represents a genuine new engine for competitive performance. I argue that it absolutely does. Sustainability is no longer a side project. It is the definitive competitive edge.
See, I look at the exact same data and see a different reality. This transformation is technologically incredible, sure, but it isn't an optional performance upgrade.
You don't think so?
No. I mean, it is a highly sophisticated compliance mandate. It is a strict survival mechanism driven by absolute existential environmental scarcity.
To understand why this is a performance engine, look at how Delassus treats their B Corp certification. They aren't just, treating it like a marketing sticker.
Right.
They're using the B Corp framework, which legally binds a company to balance profit with ecological purpose as their operational spine. It integrates human labor, advanced water tech, and earth regeneration into a highly profitable system.
But look at the catalyst for that system. The environment is basically forcing their hand. In Morocco, water is essentially vanishing.
Well,
let me just say, when Delassus commits to pushing precision irrigation across 100% of its farms, or starts exploring seawater desalination, they are doing it because the traditional well is dry. These are mandatory, desperate survival tactics to keep a legacy export model breathing.
calling it a desperate survival tactic severely downplays the sheer technical innovation at play here. Take their hyper-targeted irrigation loop. They are using satellite macro observation to scan topographical and real-time weather data.
Right, which then feeds into AI, but...
Let me just finish the mechanism here because it's crucial. The AI calculates the exact hydration and nutrient needs for specific zones. It's almost like an IV drip for individual plants, rather than flooding a field. It eliminates waste entirely.
Wow, an IV drip for plants?
Yeah, exactly. By prescribing exact inputs, they optimize their yield field by field. That is an aggressive leap forward in agronomy.
Oh, the technology is a masterclass. I completely agree. But why build an IV drip for a plant? Because you are operating at the epicenter of an agricultural crisis.
It is a severe challenge, yes.
Right. So if they don't use AI and satellites to measure every single drop, they lose the crop entirely. This hyper-targeted loop is required just to maintain the baseline yields they used to get naturally. Plus, running AI systems and massive seawater desalination plants requires an astronomical amount of electricity.
Which brings us perfectly to how they are scaling their energy transition. Delassus recognized the power demand and solved it by transitioning from just an energy consumer into a solar power producer. They already have 10 megawatts peak of solar actively deployed.
Wow, 10.
Yes, and by 2028, their solar tech plant with Altia Nova will produce 16 gigawatt hours of green energy annually.
Okay, that scale is certainly massive.
It is. And by generating their own power, they are drastically cutting their Scope 2 emissions by 30%. That is the indirect carbon footprint from purchased electricity. They are even unlocking a totally new green business line as the main off-taker of that power. They are turning a vulnerability into a profitable asset.
The energy independence is smart, sure. But let's look at the broader ecological regeneration they are doing. They are replanting 27,000 native trees and actively restoring fragile Argan ecosystems.
Exactly.
And they are shifting to fully recyclable packaging, investing heavily in fair trade protocols for their 6,800 employees.
Which proves they are building a genuinely regenerative business.
No, I mean, it proves they want to keep selling in Europe. Think about how the global supply chain works right now. If a Moroccan farm wants to sell premium tomatoes to a major European supermarket, that importer requires strict proof that the farm isn't destroying the local environment or exploiting labor.
So you see it as just a barrier to entry.
Essentially, restoring argan trees isn't just ecological goodwill, it acts as a regulatory passport. It's basically a compliance tax required to access premium foreign markets.
Well, we clearly both agree that this operational shift represents a total reimagining of Moroccan agriculture. The old model of simply extracting resources until the land dies is over.
Completely over. The execution by Delassus is undeniably rigorous. Our split simply comes down to causality. Is this massive technical shift an aggressive market strategy to outpace global competitors, or a defensive necessity just to stay in the game?
There is profound value in viewing modern agronomy through both of those lenses. The SIAM 2026 exhibition materials offer an incredible look at the reality of climate-adapted farming.
It really does. It leaves you wondering what the future of our food systems actually looks like.
Exactly. Are these ESG frameworks the blueprint for dominating the future of global trade? Or are they the ultimate, highly advanced survival manual for farming in the desert? We will leave that for you to decide.